Hello and welcome to the space between ideas. It's starting to get cold here, over here in Georgia. The Georgia over by Azerbaijan and Russia, I guess, and Turkey and Armenia. But I'm like right on the border between Russia and Azerbaijan in this mountain range. Anywho, so we are doing this State Purposes live lecture series where I have been taking you step by step through the concept of state purposes from the book by Tom Buckholtz. It's called Create Crucial Insight. State purposes, it's about envisioning purposes that motivate. The idea is that if you can figure out purposes, let's think of it in a different way. Let's talk about this concept of an appetite. If you have an appetite, it means that you are You're hungry for something. There's something that you want. And when you get that thing, then your body is going to thank you for getting it, and it's going to release a bunch of dopamine. So this is a little map that tells you that, how are the different ways that people experience dopamine reactions in workplace environments. And we're in this section called agendas. If you watch the other videos, you'll be able to listen to a lot of videos talking about potential. Last time we started with talking about agendas, and we've been talking about this concept called gain, goals, purpose, or a sense of direction. Which means what? And I would say that this was a core dopamine release, a core appetite of my mother when I was a child growing up. Because my mom, every Saturday morning, 5 kids, we all get out of bed, we watch some cartoons, we eat breakfast, and then it's like, all right, let's get on with the day. And so what's the plan? So there was something about my mother where I think that every time she wrote down a list of things to do, she had an incredible dopamine release because she just loved to get things done. And I think this was indicative of people that grew up in that time period. This was the baby boomer generation. These people, they had all the opportunities in the world. They didn't necessarily have to finish university in order to get a job. And technology wasn't so advanced that you weren't able to learn on the job. And so it was just the endless possibilities. And also at the same time, it was like they came from the generation of people who were working on farms and people who were putting their life into staying alive. And so they had both the work ethic of the previous generation and then the opportunity of a lifetime, which, as probably most people have noticed, there are significantly more people on the earth, especially in North America, who no longer have to have that work ethic in order to have a basic middle-class lifestyle. Though, even those people who aren't terribly motivated to get things done, they still have some kind of appetite. And if you're able to understand what motivates them, then you'll be able to understand how to improve the outcomes that you're getting out of the work. And hopefully also to improve the quality of life for these people. See, that's the thing, really. When I work with somebody and I can see that maybe they have some emotional problems or maybe they have some behavioral problems, what is the whole thing? Why am I concerned or why am I interested? Is it just because I'm trying to make money, or is it just because I'm interested in this topic? Is it just because, there's also this other part where it's to some extent, it's like parenting. It's I want to see positive outcomes in another person's life. And so that's why, to some extent, I feel like I want to present information that can help people. I want to help people understand themselves. And I think that this is the work of Tom Buckholtz is one way that can really help you to understand the concept, the framework of getting things done. Part of that is gaining goals. Last time we used an example with gain goals about climbing a mountain. Gaining a goal. So I set up this goal. I'm trying to climb the mountain. And then as soon as I write it down, I want to climb the mountain. Boom, I get the dopamine release. I think, the more and more I listen to this concept of getting dopamine, I see it from two different aspects. The one aspect is once you've set a goal, there is the anticipation of the reward. And some people, they talk about this concept of anticipation of reward. And they say that in some cases, the anticipation of the reward may give you more dopamine than the reward itself. For example, they talk about if you go on vacation, if you're planning a vacation, like the process of planning the vacation perhaps may give you more dopamine than the actual vacation itself. Okay, so this is the dopamine that's released in anticipation of a reward. And then this is also connected to the concept of like gambling. So why are they gambling? Because there's this anticipation. And then when they have the anticipation, what happens? It releases dopamine into the brain. And so the person is like addicted to this feeling of anticipation. So if I win or I don't win, or I lose all my money, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter in the moment, because in the moment, my brain is washed in dopamine. And the other perspective I hear quite a bit is the concept of when you make actual steps, when you take the steps, when you feel yourself, when you complete something which projects, which pushes you toward gaining that goal, that also gives you a dopamine release. All right, so when we set the goal, then this is going to give you some kind of dopamine release that says, hey, we have a goal, and now there's some anticipation. Purpose is the appetite. It means like there's something inside of me that pushes me toward that thing. It grasps me, it pulls me. Something is charging me. I need that. I want that. Like, why would you want to climb a mountain? Some people might say. And other people would say, climb a mountain? I've always wanted to climb a mountain. Like, I literally climbed this mountain. I did a 45-kilometer hike in 14 hours. Up the mountain to the little lake, which is like split where the border is between here and Russia, and all the way back home again. And then sense of direction. So last time I was saying a sense of direction is likely this concept of like, where am I now? What is the goal? And then how am I going to get there? And once you've decided where you're going to go, and then if you have generally what? Agenda. So this pulls us back to this concept of agenda. Agenda. Oh no. Dog's going to want to go running now. He's going to come over here and make a bunch of noise. Let's give us 5 more minutes, buddy. All right. So this is the concept, the sense of direction. You have 2 big things right now, or 3 big things. So first of all, if you're a manager, this is what I wanted to talk about is, in fact, I want to talk about the Endeavor cycle. But now I think we want to do this in just a couple of minutes. So let's just jump right into the 4D management coaching. The first thing, remember, was purpose, which means we want to understand the things which naturally drive the people on our team. And we want to make sure that when we're doing the hiring, that we hire people who have this appetite, who have a natural propensity to engage in activities going in this direction. People who are interested in this thing. Remember, I was dogging Big 5 personality traits. And because, like, yeah, Big 5 personality traits is good from one perspective. It's good to say, okay, so how generally are you going to act in these types of situations? But the situations are so generic that it's different than saying purpose. Like, what do you want to eat? And you're like, well, I'm an introvert. It's like, what? No, what do you want to eat? Well, I'm conscientious. No. What is it that what's your appetite? What is the thing that you want to, there's no connection. There's not actually a connection. Which is why, I don't know, I kind of feel like when they talk about the dark triad or tetrad, and then they add the last one, which is like, what is it? Taking enjoyment out of the suffering of others. I feel like that one is a little bit out of place. Because taking enjoyment out of the suffering of others is an actual appetite. It is an actual desire. It's not the same shade as the Big 5 personality traits. The Big 5 personality traits are generic concepts which express how people behave in 5 particular types of situations. One is their expression of how they are interested in things. So 2 of them are about interest in things, 2 of them are about interest in people, and 1 is your relationship with yourself. And it's just basically like how much energy you have in these types of situations. But then if you say if somebody says that they take, if they feel good by seeing other people suffer, that's actually a purpose. That's a motivation. So I think it's outside of the actual category of the concept of the big 5 personality traits. Anywho, we got to go quick. So now in the big 4, so I call this 4D management coaching. 4D, meaning the 4 dimensions. And you can see this all connects with the concept of different levels of managers. At the bottom, we have the floor level manager. You see, these are people who are managing individuals and coordinators. The question is, what is being done? How is it being done? What are the challenges and the needs? So this is the floor level manager. And the question is, if you're a floor level manager, then how is it that you create your agendas? How is it that you create a sense of direction? And what I was just mentioning previously is, how do you understand what really drives the people around you? So this is going to spin off into a conversation about a lot of different things, which I don't really want to talk about today. So let's just keep it at this simple concept of, you have a floor level manager, and the question is, how do they understand what drives their people? And then how do you help your floor level employees to make goals? And how do you help them to have a sense of direction? And then they can feel more confident that they're going to be able to make you happy. Because remember, when you were working in a factory when you're 18 years old, like me, yeah, you were kind of like scared of your manager, and at the same time you were like, want to make them happy. It's like when you're a kid and you have parents, and like to some extent you're like a little bit scared of your parents. I mean, I don't know if I was ever scared of my parents. And then, but at the same time, you want to make them happy. You want to make them proud of you. You want them to love you. So these are all like natural desires for normal people. And I think it's the same if you're managing people. And I think that you can create a huge amount of, like, you can reduce the amount of pressure and create a whole lot of joy if you're able to help people to set goals and to understand how they can achieve those goals, and also understand what is it that naturally motivates them. All right, now, as you move up in the organization, you have to be more strategic. So in this middle level managers, we're talking about people managing analysts, decision makers, functional and cross-functional managers. And this is the actual planning department. So, but the thing is, you have to make plans in order to understand the data. You have to be able to make plans in order to create data. Remember, in the last video, I was showing you something I think is really interesting, which is this concept of the state assumptions checklist. And the state assumptions checklist, it tells us that in order to make great decisions, you have to have great data. Here it is. So in the last video, I went through this talking about how, what was there a problem with your data? Was there a problem with you understanding, selecting, prioritizing data? And then did you have enough information that you felt confident that you're making the right decision? So for the mid-level managers, this is really the key. Just now, I was showing you this one here. So we're talking about planning, meaning we have to understand the data. We have to analyze the past. All right, well, in order for you to understand the data, then it means, like, that's in the create insight section. It means you first have to collect the data. You have to have appropriate quality of data. You have to have appropriate usefulness of data. It has to be good data. And then once you have the data, so if you're a manager, then somebody else is likely creating the data. Then the question is, okay, so now what principles and knowledge are we going to use in order to develop insight about the data? All right, what's the basis of consideration? It's not just the data, but it's how much weight do you put on individual pieces of data, which you might call a metric or a weight. All right, so these are the people who are making the plans. They're structuring deliverables. And you can see there's a relationship. The same relationship that the manager, the floor level manager, has with their employees is a similar relationship between the floor level manager and this functional manager. The functional manager is also trying to create objectives and key results that he's going to be communicating with the floor level manager so that the floor level manager can feel that same sense of direction and have that same sense of accomplishment when they complete the objectives, and also a sense of ease knowing that they are headed in the right direction. Now, the flip coin, the other side of a mid-level manager, is this concept of teams and innovation. It's not just structuring the deliverables, meaning the thing which actually has to get done, but it's saying, okay, so who do we want in the team and how are we going to develop innovations? Another way of saying that is capabilities. And capabilities are often connected with people, but more and more these days it's connected with SaaS. So meaning that you have like a whole company or a whole piece of software that is a innovation or a capability. And here we're also looking at our competitors. And so like, at what level do we need to compete in order to be able to survive in this industry? So on the one side, we're looking at our capabilities, meaning the input. So this brings us back to the endeavor cycle. All right, so we're taking inventory because we want to know what is our capability, what kind of people do we have, what are we up against, and then innovate. And then we have to be innovative. We have to say, okay, so what is it that we want to achieve? Then that's also part of the assumptions. Eventually, we can plan the impact which we would like to make. Now, these are mid-level managers. Lastly, there is the upper-level manager, which is the big picture. So this is the people managing C-level executives. So it could be the CEO or it could be other C-level executives or a board of directors, and they are creating a vision. So they're saying overall business model, market fit, what are the overall project cycles, what's going on, where are we headed? So I mean, you could see the concept of a sense of direction in all of these. You can also talk about objectives, like what are the objectives at each level for different managers. But I think most of all I think this concept of a sense of direction is really cool, because a sense of direction, it could mean what is the big picture? Where is this boat headed? And then a sense of direction meaning, okay, so if we know where we're headed, we know what kind of boat we have, then, okay, what are the kinds of people that we need to have in the boat in order to get there? And then once all the people are on the boat, then we talk about, okay, so what are the different departments and responsibilities on the boat, because we need this boat to be going in the right direction. Everyone needs to get fed. We have to make sure that everything's working properly. And then finally, we have the actual tasks, the deliverables. What are the actual things that need to be done each day? And all of these things are done according to a plan. All right, so there you go. And some people, they're just super motivated because they just love doing this kind of thing. And if they love doing this kind of thing, then of course they are going to be a manager. Thank you for joining me at Space Between Ideas, and we will see you next week. Remember that next week on Tuesday, I'm going to make a video about the role of a coach. We're going to go through this 9-box concept, which I created a couple of years ago, but it didn't really go anywhere. So it is a half-baked idea. We'll see you on Tuesday.